Children, I hope you all are feeling fine. I welcome you all to our special English hour. As you all know, here we learn lots of new things. And when we learn these things, we also have lots of fun. Are you ready for some fun? Let's get started. Children, as you all know, we always start our day with something fun and interesting. So today, let's watch an interesting video. Children, what do you do when you fall sick? You go to the doctor, right? When you go to the doctor, you tell the doctor how you are feeling, and the doctor gives you medicines which make you feel better. Have you ever wondered if animals fall sick? And if they do fall sick, how do they treat their illness? Do they also have a doctor? Yes, animals also have doctors. Do you know what these doctors are called? Yes, they are called veterinarians. These are special kinds of doctors who treat animals. They also help in protecting the health of animals. Now, children, we all know that there are many professions in our society which are very important. If we don't have these professions, it will be very difficult to maintain our society. These professions include professions like doctors, teachers, policemen, etc. Can you ever imagine a society without doctors? Think of all the horrors that could happen if we don't have doctors. Can you imagine a society without teachers? No, right? If we don't have teachers, how will we get our education? Similarly, if we don't have policemen, who will protect us? Similarly, the job of a veterinarian is also very, very, very important. They play a very important role in our society. They also do a very important job of protecting and saving animals every day. We as human beings know how to speak. We can communicate, right? But if animals are facing a situation where the situation is dangerous, they might not be able to ask for help. And this is where veterinarians come in picture. They are able to communicate with animals, which is what makes their job very, very, very important. So children, now that you know how important the job of a veterinarian is, we should all respect them and try to help them in any way possible. And the most important thing is that we should learn from them. There is one thing that we should learn from veterinarians is that we should always care for animals and try to protect them in any way possible. Children, you all know that it is very important for us to learn new words. Only when we learn new words will we be able to learn a new language. So now, let's learn some new words. You will come across these words in the poem when we read it. So I request you to please make a note of these words in your notebooks. Competent, competent, competent. He was a very competent soldier. Grown, grown, grown. I saw the animal groan in great pain. Incredible, incredible, incredible. The beauty of the Taj Mahal is incredible. Omniscient, omniscient, omniscient. A sage came to a village and claimed to be omniscient. Virulent, virulent, virulent. There was a breakage of virulent cholera. So children, today we learned 5 new words. Let's revise them. Competent, grown, incredible, omniscient and virulent. I hope you remember these words and I hope that you have made a note of these words in your notebooks. So I request you to please open page number 77 of your textbook. I will be reading this poem and I request you to point at the words as I read them. The vet. To be a successful and competent vet needs knowledge exceedingly wide. For each of the patients he is likely to get possesses a different inside. He must know why the cat is refusing her milk, why the dog is not eating his bone, why the coat of the horse is not shining like silk, why the parrot does nothing but groan. Children, as you saw, this poem is about the vet. A vet is a doctor of the animals. You all know that we go to doctor when we are unwell. And you must also know that there are special kind of doctors. For example, if you have a problem related to bone, you will go to a special doctor who specifically works in bones. If you have a toothache, who do you go to? Yes, we go to a dentist. So just like that, for different problems, we have different kinds of doctors and they study that specific thing. But there is a difference in a doctor and a vet. The type of patients that human doctor deals with are different. I can go to different types of doctors because they are specifically trained in that particular thing. But a vet is trained in different kinds of things. So he needs to study every animal and their problems. In these stanzas, we saw that the poet is giving different examples of the problems that animals could face. He talks about how a cat can refuse to drink milk when we all know that cats love to drink milk. When we are sick, sometimes we don't even feel like eating food that we normally like. So if a cat is sick, he or she might not feel like having the milk. Just like that, the poet also talks about different problems of different animals. Why the ducks and the chickens are failing to lay? Why so faint the canary bird sings? If he is called to the zoo, he must say an incredible number of things. If the lions caught a cold, if the zebra's getting old, if the centipede has trouble with his feet, if the hippo's feeling ill, if the bison's got a chill, if the Arctic fox is suffering from heat. In these stanzas, we saw how the poet says that the vet should have knowledge about every animal. He says that if the vet is called to the zoo, he should have answer to every question and he should have solution to every problem. In these stanzas as well, the poet describes various problems that the animals could face. These are signs of the animals being sick, and the poet says that the vet should have all the answers to these questions. If some virulent disease has attacked the chimpanzees, if the tortoise hasn't stirred for several years, if the bear's too full of buns, if the cobra eats her sons, if the panther has a wife who chews his ears, if giraffes had a tiff and their necks are feeling stiff, if hyenas will not laugh at keepers' jokes, if the monkeys pinched his tail, if the rhino's looking pale, if the elephant eats paper bags and chokes. In these stanzas, the poet is again talking about different animals and the problems that they could face. All these problems are signs that these animals are sick. The poet mentions different types of animals. He mentions animals like tortoise, giraffe, hyenas and many more. And he says that if all these animals are facing all these problems, the vet should have a solution to all these problems. If you look at it carefully, you will see that all these animals are facing different types of problems. No problem is similar to one, which is why a vet has to deal with different types of problems, and he has a very, very difficult job. If the camel hurt his hump, if the kangaroo won't jump, if the crocodile turns cannibal and bites, they run away and get that omniscient the vet and expect him to put everything to rights. In these stanzas, the poet is again talking about different animals and their problems. Here, the poet says that all the animals have different problems, and if you find any animal in danger, we should immediately take them to the vet, because he is the person who knows everything about animals, and he is the only one who can save these animals. Profoundly, I pity the vet who must learn such a very great deal for his pay. My son, I advise you most strongly to earn your living an easier way. Don't attempt to attend the zoological crowd. A far more advisable plan is to call yourself doctor and so be allowed to treat the illness of a man. In the last two stanzas, the poet is using a different language. He is criticizing the vets, but it is for a purpose. Here, the poet is trying to educate us about the responsibilities of a vet. He says that the poet needs to have vast knowledge, but he says that the vet does not get paid enough, which is why he is advising us to not become vets. Do you think that is the intention of the poem? No, it's not. In fact, the poet is urging us to approach this field because people are not aware of this field and the importance of a vet. I am sure that you learned the importance of a vet and the role that a vet plays in this society, because that is the motive of this poem. इस कविता में हमने देखा कि कवि अलग अलग जानवरों की अलग अलग प्रॉब्लम्स हमें बता रहे थे. इसी के साथ कवि ये भी बता रहे थे कि एक वेट का काम कितनी ज़्यादा बड़ी जिम्मेदारी होती है और ये काम बहुत मुश्किल भी होता है. इसीलिए कवि इस कविता के थ्रू हमें ये मैसेज देना चाहते हैं कि हमें इस फील्ड की तरफ अपना ध्यान देना चाहिए, और जैसे कि हम बाकी के डॉक्टर्स को जितना सम्मान देते हैं उतना ही सम्मान वेट्स को भी मिलना चाहिए. Children, I hope that you enjoyed this poem. This poem was something very different than we usually read. This poem also had a very important message. बच्चों, मैं जानती हूँ कि आपको ये कविता बहुत अच्छी लगी होगी. इस कविता के थ्रू हमें एक बहुत important मैसेज भी मिला. So I hope that you all learned something new today. Children, in the poem we saw that the poet described different problems or illnesses of the animals. Now, for this activity, I request you to point out 5 illnesses that you found amusing or different. अब हम एक एक्टिविटी करेंगे. इस एक्टिविटी में आपको स्क्रीन पे पोएम दिखाई देगी. आपको पोएम पढ़नी है और आपको जो डिफरेंट या अनोखी इलनेस दिखाई दी उसके बारे में लिखना है. Children, I hope that you have written illnesses that you found amusing. Let's have a look at the 5 illnesses that I found very amusing. My first example is the panther has a wife who chews his ears. Now, when I read this, I found it very amusing because panthers are very scary animals. And if you see a panther who has a wife who chews his ears, in my mind it sounded very funny, which is why I thought that this was a very amusing illness. Now let's move to the second amusing illness that I thought. Now let's move to the second amusing illness that I thought was very odd, and that was lion has caught a cold. Now I found this very amusing because we always say that lion is the king of the jungle. Now can you imagine that such a strong animal is feeling weak because it has caught cold? Doesn't it sound amusing? Now let's move to my third amusing illness, and that is monkeys pinched his tail. This was also very funny when I read it. Now let's move to the fourth amusing illness, and for me this was the centipede has trouble with his feet. I found this very amusing because centipedes are very famous for their legs. They have the most number of legs imaginable, which is why I found this very amusing. And the last amusing illness that I found was the bear is too full of buns. I found this very funny because bears don't eat buns, and bears are huge animals, which means that they require a lot of energy, and for that they eat a lot of food. So for me, it was very difficult to imagine that a bear could have a full tummy, especially after eating buns. Children, these were the 5 illnesses of the animals that I found very amusing. I hope that you have also written these illnesses. Children, for homework, I request you to find out with the help of your family members and friends the precautions that you need to take when you are treating an animal. I would like to end this session with a nice quote. To become a good veterinarian, you must like people. And this quote is by Kevin Fitzgerald. So children, on that note, I will end this session. I will see you all in our next session. Until then, take care and stay safe. Bye.